At my birthday dinner, my parents toasted my sister as the only child worth being proud of. So I smiled and said, "Funny, that's not what the DNA test says," and watched everything collapse. At my birthday dinner, the room was filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and the warm glow of candles flickering against the walls. I sat at the head of the table, supposedly the guest of honor, yet feeling more like an afterthought at my own celebration. My dad raised his glass high, his voice strong and steady, but his words cut into me deeper than any knife could. He turned his gaze straight toward my sister and declared, "Here's to the one child who actually made us proud." My mom, never missing an opportunity to undermine me, added with a smirk, "Some people peak at birth." The entire table exploded with laughter, my relatives chuckling and nodding in agreement as if my worthlessness was a joke they'd all been in on for years. I stared at my plate, my fork motionless against the mashed potatoes I'd been pushing around since the meal began. My chest tightened as the words echoed over and over in my head. I tried to tell myself that this was nothing new, that I'd been the forgotten child for 32 years, that their favoritism had always been a fixture of my life. Yet something about hearing it spoken aloud, on my birthday of all days, broke something inside me. My sister sat there smiling brightly, soaking in the praise like she always did, her designer heels crossed beneath the table, her life painted as picture-perfect by parents who worshipped the ground she walked on. For a brief second, I thought my dad would finally toast me. Just once, just this one day. But instead, he'd looked right past me, and that was the moment I couldn't stay silent any longer. I lifted my head, my voice calm but heavy with decades of pain, and said quietly, "Funny, that's not what the DNA test says." The room fell into instant silence. My sister froze mid-laugh, her wine glass paused halfway to her lips. My dad's fork slipped from his hand and clattered loudly onto the plate, the sound sharp in the sudden stillness. For the first time in my life, every pair of eyes at that table was on me, not with contempt or indifference, but with shock. The tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway suddenly sounded deafening. The barking of a neighbor's dog echoed in the distance, and the hum of the refrigerator seemed to pulse with the tension filling the room. My mom tried to brush it off at first with a nervous chuckle, asking what I meant, but I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. There on the screen were the DNA results I'd taken months ago, scientific proof that the man sitting across from me was not my biological father. I explained calmly that I had run the test twice, through different companies, because even I had thought it might be a mistake. But the results were identical. My sister and I did not share the same father. My dad's face went pale as he read the numbers, his expression shifting from disbelief to horror. My sister demanded to know if this was a joke, but I shook my head, explaining that I'd even gone back into old photo albums, finding certain pictures of my mom around the time I was conceived. Pictures that suddenly made far too much sense. The extended family scrambled to leave as the weight of my words sank in. Chairs scraped back, excuses were mumbled, and within minutes, the house that had been filled with laughter and celebration was nearly empty, leaving only my parents, my sister, and me. The lies that had propped up my family for over 3 decades were unraveling before my eyes. My dad, his voice barely audible, asked my mom what it meant. She tried to deflect, blaming me for bringing up something so destructive. But I interrupted, pointing out that I wasn't the one who'd lived a lie for 32 years. Finally, my mom broke down and admitted the truth. She had slept with her boss from the accounting firm where she worked all those years ago. She swore it had only been once, that she had tried to convince herself I was my dad's child, that she had planned to take the secret to her grave. But that one night had altered the course of my entire life. The silence that followed was crushing. My dad looked broken, my sister looked betrayed, and my mom looked like the carefully constructed world around her was crumbling brick by brick. Then I dropped the second bombshell. I had already met my biological father. His name was Robert Chun, a respected CPA who lived not far away. He had been shocked to learn about me, but unlike the man who had raised me, Robert had embraced me immediately, expressing genuine pride in my accomplishments and inviting me to dinner with his family. For the first time in my life, I had felt what it was like to be claimed with pride. The days and weeks that followed were a blur of upheaval. My dad moved out, filing for divorce after 32 years of marriage. My mom oscillated between anger and apologies, desperately trying to blame me for destroying the family, when the truth was she had done that herself decades ago. My sister tried to play mediator at first, suggesting therapy, begging for us to heal together. But I told her honestly that some wounds went too deep to ever fully heal, especially when they had been inflicted day after day for a lifetime. Meanwhile, Robert's family welcomed me with open arms. His wife introduced me proudly as Robert's son. His children asked me questions with genuine curiosity, and he apologized tearfully for not being there all those years. I could see in his eyes that he meant every word. Slowly, I found myself shifting from the family that had never truly wanted me to the one that had been missing me without even knowing it. Months later, everything had changed. My dad had a new life across town. My mom was drowning in bitterness and denial, and my sister was grappling with the truth that her perfect family had been built on lies. But I had finally found peace. I changed my last name to Chun, taking my real father's name with pride. My career had blossomed with the opportunities he helped me find, and for the first time, I felt genuinely valued for who I was. When I saw my old family again at the grocery store, my mom tried to guilt me about abandoning them. I looked at her calmly and said, "You abandoned me 32 years ago. I'm just returning the favor." Looking back, that birthday dinner was the best gift I could have ever received. It was the day the lies shattered, the day the mockery stopped, the day I finally realized I didn't need to beg for love from people who could never give it. Sometimes the harshest truths break us just enough to set us free.